I don't know how well that shows up, but I mean, compared to how smooth this is, this looks like the surface of the moon.
All right, everybody, we are back for another episode of the GNS. I know it has been a while, but last we left off, I had just finished taking off all of the fiberglass from the top and the bottom deck, and the top was an absolute disaster. It looked like the surface of the moon. So I was left with a couple of choices of what to do, and the reason I'm explaining it here instead of showing you on camera is because it was ultimately the wrong decision for what I wanted to do with the board. So I decided to start with a 2-part polyurethane foam, pour it over the deck of the board, sand it down, and voila, we will be good, right? Wrong. It really left really big holes. It was soft in some areas. So then I doubled down and I was like, well, I will just put spackle over the top of it, right? People finish boards with spackle. EPS boards get finished with spackle all the time. What could go wrong? The color was impossible to match, and I was being really, really picky. I wanted to airbrush this board. I wanted it to be done as original as possible, so with like a clear lamination.
All right, change of plans for the 800th time. Now that might also have been my 800th all right, but I really don't like the way that this looks. You can tell it's obvious. I hate it. I am doing something drastic. I bought a router, and I'm going to completely route out the entire area that came up with that D-lam when I first took off the glass. We are going to route all that out, take a scrap board that I have here, rip a bunch of foam out of it like I did for this section of the tail, because honestly you can't even really tell that it's there, and it's fantastic. So I'm going to do the same thing for the entire deck and for that big part on the bottom, and hopefully all of this mess will be behind us soon and we can glass. I've said that 37 times and I'll probably say it 37 more, but I feel like we're getting close. So time to wrap. Okay, hole number one, trench number one in the surfboard is routed out. It's like probably at least half the board on the one, the third part of the stringer. You know, obviously some little inconsistencies, but nothing a little sandpaper, little 80 grit on a block will take out in 2 seconds. So I'm not really too worried about it. I think it looks awesome. It's amazing to kind of see just how close you are to just perfect white foam underneath where all that yellowing was. Probably an hour ago in the video, but the goal now is to try and get there with how clean the stringer is, but you see I gouged it a couple times, so not a big deal, but want to obviously clean all that up, flatten that part out. But first, we still have this whole side. I'm going to be so much happier that there's no more of this ugly spackle. That was a horrible idea. Don't do 2-part foam. Don't do spackle. Just route it out, find a piece of scrap foam, and glue it in there. It's not worth it. This is such a pain. It's such an absolute nightmare dealing with this. So, on to the next part of the deck. All right, that went way better doing long ways instead of back and forth sideways. You can see the difference, how much better it went. The only thing I did was this little tiny piece right here. So I think I'm just gonna push that line up on both sides of here just a little bit, just to make them even. And then flip it over to the bottom. Yeah, overall, looks awesome. And then next step, after squaring all these guys off, these just little corners, I'm just gonna go in there with a box cutter and just cut to the stringer and then pop them out, will be to take this lovely blank that is now, that was what we did the tail with, and it's gonna come out of somewhere. I don't know. We're gonna have to cut pieces. I have to figure out a way to like trace or measure something to get that the way that I want it to. And then glue it in, fit it in, weigh it down, and leave it for a while, and we'll be good to go. All right, now we're on to the scrap board. So I am essentially thinking I'm gonna do the same thing that I did to the GNS, but with this and a router. So I think, kind of did a test. I think I'm just gonna route straight down the stringer to the stomp pad, come over, and then route up the rail. Same thing on this side, straight over, across, and up the rail. Peel off all that glass and start cutting out sections, probably along the stringer, that I'll then be able to glue into the GNS. All right, so several things. That is way easier when you don't care about it, obviously. Just kind of ripped it apart, as you can see by my gigantic gouges over there. But if the blank of the GNS came off as clean as this board just came off, I would have been done with this whole project about 2 months ago. This thing came off absolutely perfectly, would just need a light sand. I mean, obviously I ripped it with the router way too deep, but like, I could have just sanded that and glassed it and been on my merry way. But no, I needed the life lesson about restoring a surfboard from hell. I'm over it. Anyway, I'm going to measure out holes in the GNS and try and like trace them or something, I don't really know. And then cut chunks out of the board, glue it in, and see what we can do. Fits like a glove. Glorious. Plenty of room to spare around the top for shaping. And then I believe that's not the piece. This piece should also okay, so the only part that's a little low is here, but I mean, if I cut that, I still have that whole piece, so I'll have to cut that somewhere and make sure that that still works, but kind of jam that dude in there. He is cozy. Again, wasn't the straightest with my cut on the router. That T-square would have been super helpful a little while ago, but like I said, it's gonna be glued. I might even make a little shim out of that or something and just sand a little piece of foam down and stick it in there, but other than that, dude, this thing fits snug as a bug. And this is the stringer side facing both stringers, so very flat. And kind of just pop that guy in there. So he is good to go. That is good to go. We'll just need to cut that probably, I don't know, about here maybe. Maybe a little higher. I might cut it like there. Measure a piece here, flip it over, do the piece on the bottom, glue it down, sand it down. We'll be good to go. Okay, so take a quick look. So this whole piece fits in, but I mean almost no gaps. A little tiny gap right there, but that's okay. In the corner, this one's very snug in there. Perfect. And then he's in there. That's in there. That one will definitely need some weight on it through there, but this thing ain't going anywhere. That thing is in there, man. Sweet. So now we are going to lay down, gonna vacuum this all up, clean everything up as much as I can. I get all these chunks off and everything so it doesn't get into the glue. Lay down a ton of glue, put these back in, and I have a bunch of those sandbags, these sandbags, that I'm just gonna lay over them. We'll be done for the night. Glue has been applied. I was smart, I taped everything off this time, but I just loaded sandbags up on this thing. There's got to be over 100 pounds of sandbags on top of this right now, so I moved the sawhorses pretty much right over where that is so we don't cause any structural problems. Snap any foam or any stringers or anything like that, but we should be good to go. I ran out of glue, so I gotta go get more glue tomorrow to do the bottom part. But everything looks really good. We had glue oozing out all the corners and all the edges and everything, and it looks like everything sits very, very nicely in there. So we're gonna let that dry overnight. Come see it in the morning, and I think we'll probably glue on the other side first before we start shaping all this down. So that'll give this more time to dry, and as we're shaping, even though it doesn't need to be clamped, the bottom will still be drying too. So gonna need to get some more 80 grit sandpaper and some more Gorilla Glue, but we'll be good to go for tomorrow. So stay tuned. Thanks.